Thank you, Yanni, for the intro. Let's get started. First question, I want to sense the audience a bit here. Who has heard about this company called Adyen before? Just can I see your hands? Few, as expected. Let me just give you a 2 cents of what we do. Adyen is a payments processor. It's an European company. We do payments processing, but also an array of financial services on the back. Everything is automated, obviously. We are worldwide. Main headquarters in Amsterdam, but we have presence in everywhere. San Francisco, Sao Paulo, Singapore, dev hubs, upcoming hubs, Chicago, Madrid, and commercial offices everywhere. And it's a tech-first company. It's founded as engineering first, and this is the way it shows. Some of our customers, we have many of them, but Ubers and eBays, Spotify's, Netflix. So what it basically means is that I'm kind of sure that we got your name, your address, your credit card, and other sort of things. I'm going to talk about how we scale data within Adyen. And Adyen is a backend first company, right? Because they build this awesome product to process payments. You hit an API, and off you go, right? The way it's structured technologically is we have a platform. I'll call it the main platform. This is the one that you hit to, for example, process a payment or get a bank account with us or something like that. And then you might get a payout. So that's customer facing. And then next to it, we have a big data platform. That's something that we built in the last years. It doesn't interface, obviously, the outside world. It just interfaces the main platform. And we are on-prem, mostly because of the sensitivity of the data that we have. For us, raising the maturity of the data has been evolving on 3 pillars that you need to have, and if one of them breaks, then something is tipping. Tech, and for here I mean the infrastructure, and I mean the data, and I mean also the formulas that you're going to use. The people, the team is essential to make things work, and the products, because that's in the end what we do for. So we do products that make our merchants, we call our customers merchants because we are B2B. It makes our merchants' life happier or easier or enables a new dimension on their business that they didn't do. And data powers that, right? So I'm going to take you through a very honest journey of the last 3 years of Adyen with respect to data. So it's kind of the anti-Instagram. I'm going to show you all the stuff that didn't work and we try to fix and the stuff that still doesn't work. Let me start in 2019. So this is just the numbers that we had there. We processed 240 billion in payments. And we grew 50% from the previous year. This is all backend, right? This is all payments. So the backend culture is really strong. It's like, we did that, right? And that's it. There's no data model, machine learning whatsoever, just that. And what was data at that point? So that's a pretty honest way of putting it. There were some data analysts scattered around that they wanted to do data science, but there wasn't tooling, there wasn't maybe buy-in. The business, it's not only on Adyen, it's in everywhere. It was very eager to say, yeah, we solved it, right? You put an if statement and suddenly it's AI. And the backenders were like rolling their eyes, like, okay, stop it already with the whole, pumping up data and AI and all this, and we are the one actually driving value here, which was true. How did the team look like? So very few data people. They were really the odd ones out. 300 devs at that point, around 15 people working with data. There was no role differentiation. Everyone was working with data, was either doing mostly lots of SQL statements or maybe writing a pipeline, but not so much data science, or maybe. And they were scattered. And what I mean is just let me give a bit of an intro on the way we work. We have a very flat organization where we have teams of around 10 people, each one focused on one product. And the idea is that at that point, there were some teams with one data scientist feeling very lonely and very sad, and that just didn't work well. In terms of infrastructure, we were a bit starting our journey there, so we were years behind what other companies were. We had our own POC clusters with the typical stack with Hadoop and Spark and all that. There were POCs, but people was very happy because they could already query more than one day of payments, which they couldn't really do with Postgres, which we use a lot. These clusters were maintained mostly manually, which is pretty much not scalable. Analytics, though, was not going bad. We used Looker, and we hooked up Looker with our databases, and account managers, and all sorts of people could find their answers. And yeah, the tech stack is, as you see here with the logos, was there in 2019. And we also had some in-house frameworks that we were trying to develop to try to get faster to data and to get things done like data pipelining. Now, I abused the O'Reilly animals to give you some tips on our journey here. So if we wanted to do something with data, and we needed to convince a very strong back-end engineering people, we needed to add value. That was clear. You can just not talk around it. You cannot just promise things. You need to start delivering stuff so they feel that this will go somewhere in the end. We still did some tricks with the little infrastructure we had, like this time series forecasting, but just to give you an example of how this thing works, the scoring equations were so simple that we could redo them in Java, so we just sent coefficient data up to the main platform. There was no mechanism for deploying machine learning models or something like that. We still got our way around, we engineered a way to add value, even with that. 2020, COVID, obviously, so that poses a big constraint in the way we worked and scaled, because Zoom, right? We grew 27% that year, 300 billion processed. And the team, well, we grew a bit still, lots of interviews through Zoom, we've done our share of that. 40 people scattered still, except data engineering. Why? We decided, and this is key, this is just, let me jump a moment to the other side of the slide. If you want to deliver, and you want to deliver at scale in the future, you need to figure out first your infrastructure. You need to do something that will allow you to grow to the next dimension, and you'll not be trampling on your own foot all the time. So infrastructure was essential, and we founded this team, very core team, we called core data infrastructure, with data engineers and data infra engineers to deliver value on this infrastructure. The data scientists were still scattered. We kind of tried to dilute the castaway effect. We tried to put 2 people, right? Don't be too lonely. Infra, we did a lot of work that year on infra. We added new cluster with more capacity, still small clusters. We automated a lot of things with Ansible, for example. We introduced the culture with a weekly release cycle and a process behind it, and apps with different requirements and dependencies, Git branches, streaming sources. We hooked up Looker to Spark. We started to do some model deployments through MLflow and layers on top of it. And we introduced what for us was Sunshine Airflow, because before we were using something called Spoink, and of course you don't know what Spoink is because this is the cue to my next slide. Spoink is an in-house framework that, as everyone knows, when you build something in-house, you have to name after a Pokemon. That was trying to clone Airflow, but in a very bad way. We worked on it because that's what we had. It was based on Jenkins. We used concepts like operators and DAGs and checkpoints, because at that point Airflow wasn't mature or whatever reason, and we decided we were better than that. The reality is that it was very, very frustrating, to say the least. This is a slide I copied from a friend of mine, Santosh. At some point, apparently I said, okay, this is a new verb now. To get Spoink means that something bad will happen and you will not understand it, but deal with it. So that's the RMP channel that we have in our Slack. Basically, we got royally Spoink many times, and that's it. So we moved to Airflow, and that was good, which meant, this is another wisdom pill here, careful with in-house. So if you attempt to bring some technology, scout what's there open source, if that's your deal, or use a vendor. That's part of the H company, the way of working. Careful with in-house. We learned our lesson there. Now, there were some wins on the products. We started seeing machine learning models in the production flow. And production for us is a payment. And just to give you some numbers, we have an SLA with our customers of 1 second for a payment. That means that when you go and buy some Nikes and you put your card on the terminal, we have a commitment to do that in 1 second, right? When you go in, you come the same. So that means that latencies of machine learning model scoring and all that is important. The engineering behind this machine learning is important. So if you want to roll out machine learning models, and these machine learning models are going to affect 300 billion euros, you better do it right. You better know what you're doing. So we introduced things like rollout stages, so ghosts and canary and test and live. Monitoring, of course, the metrics, so you can roll out if something goes wrong immediately. And yes, you basically need to know what you're doing, right? We also created a full transaction monitoring framework for behavior monitoring based on our infra. And then the lesson learned there is that we were so proud of it that we got a bit ahead of it, and we said, well, we can write a scientific paper because we did a new neural net here. We're so proud of it, right? So we attempted to write a scientific, we did write a scientific paper. Lesson learned, it was a ton of time. It was a ton of time, and then it's not our battleground. We're not academia, we're pretty much industrial. And we thought, okay, we're not going to do that in many years anymore. There's benchmarks, there's formatting stuff, there's a lot of time invested. If it's not your gig, it's not your gig. So that's the wisdom pill there. 2021, that's last year. Processed 500 billion euros, so pretty cool. What it meant for us? We grew the team a lot as well, 90 people. We figured that it's important to hire not only juniors, but also senior people, which is difficult, right? And then we also figured that it's important that when someone joins the company, you want someone to show you the ropes. You can just not go and parachute, okay, off you go, figure it out. So it's important. That means that there's a constraint in how you can onboard people. That's what we call the absorption rate, right? So if you have 2 senior people in your company, you cannot onboard 5 juniors. It's not going to work at the same time, right? Regarding the structure, still scattered. This group, CDI, I mentioned before, branched out into CDI, keeping airflows and data engineering practices, a new team for BI, another team for MLOps, because they just grew. We started seeing data scientists also being technical leads of those teams that I mentioned, of 10 people behind the products. We saw, I was part of it as well, a data strategy meeting that was coming from the tech leads itself. It wasn't like top down, it was bottom up. People thinking like, should we change the review process of code? Should we introduce a new whatever, right? So that was coming bottom up. But things weren't totally right because there were inconsistencies. There were 2 teams, or many times there were 2 teams trying to solve the same problem with different technologies in different parts of the company. And then after 3 months, I mean, we're going to break it to you, engineers have proud people. After 3 months, no one wants to give away because they were 3 months on it already, right? So, yeah. Another good thing, though, coming from the people is the sense of community, right? And no one wants to work alone. And sometimes you are dealing with a problem and you want to have support from your peers externally. And we saw even the people themselves starting with initiatives to share knowledge with reading papers together or just talking about a problem, right? We tried to standardize that with the data strategy meeting with recurrent format. Still pretty bottom up. Infra, we scaled up the infrastructure, had 4 proper environments, sandbox to toy around, do whatever you want, we don't care. And then a formal release process towards production, which is the most important thing, of course. The tech stack was more mature. We used way more and contributed to open source as well. And then with data, we also used, we introduced a lot of practice, which is borderline culture, things like governance and SLOs and dictionary. These concepts weren't there before, but now they are organically even within the code. So you want to roll out the table, there's a number of things you want to do, you have to do if the test want to pass. Product rollout was also very good. The first one I tweeted very small, but I really want to call it out. We have machine learning models on the flow, which means that we score them with a latency of less than 200 milliseconds. Pathfinder is a model that we use for payment routing, for optimizing the flags for conversion success. I just leave the figure with you. We scored that model in 2021 8.5 billion times. We raised new products. Score is a tool that helps marketplaces such as eBay, which is a customer of ours, or GoFundMe, to track behavior of sellers and shoppers acting together and trying to do some harm, like scams. We had on-demand dashboards fueled by the big data, right? So people could go into main platform, demand a report or something, would trigger the big data, come back, and boof, all the data for so long, it's there consolidated, pristine. And we started to look and think about, is our data tabular or is it a graph? That was like an idea that I had rolling in the back of our mind. So we did some research that year, trying to explore and analyze whether our data had graph properties or not. 2022, which has just been 3 months, but I call it because it was an important year. It was the first year we formally came out with a data strategy. So these are the 3 things I'm going to cover for this year. The CTO asked me back in 2021 at the end, Andreu, what do we need to build in the next 5 years of the company in terms of data? It's quite a question, right? You have to think a lot of things. Who knows in 5 years? Maybe everyone is a data scientist in 5 years. I don't know. So a few of us, we gathered and we really, really tried to think that through. And we learned a lot of lessons as well, trying to just think and reflect about what we needed to build. Having a strategy of that's going to be the blueprint that's going to take you to your next years, we found that very, very important. Not only important, but inspirational for the people that want to work with us and want to do cool things. So you better have a statement that inspires, that's a mission and vision. You better identify what should the priorities. For us are either end products, like for example a tool to fight fraud, or an enabling product, like a graph engine. And you need to identify as well what you need from other people across the company and what you don't do. And there you can enter into technological choices, but also ethical choices, like selling your data. We won't sell our data. We also reflected that for once in our structure. In the company is still very flat. We have 4 departments, 1 dedicated to payments. This is engineering all, basically. There's no sales or anything here. This is all engineering. Payments, financial services and platforms, platform engineering, which is infrastructure, and data. Data is one of these departments. And we had 3 leads, 1 for analytics, 1 for data engineering and machine learning engineering, and 1 for data science and machine learning scientists, which is me. And then we have teams below these people, each team devoted to 1 product or 1 enabling tool. Important as well, another wisdom pill, people have expectations when they join a company like Agile. You need to provide to them a plan to grow, to learn from others, but also a roadmap to learn new technologies and time, and they know that this is important as well. We also clarify the data roles, because many times people will be, am I a data scientist, or I'm a data analyst, or I'm a data engineer, what am I? What is my primary task? So we gave a bit of a guideline around, okay, we expect a data scientist to do this and a machine learning scientist to do this. And it's fine if you move around a bit, right? Because this temperature is always good. But at least you know, people knows what expected when you're hiring or where you're promoting and things like that. So transparency is really important. Our lessons learned then through this journey over these 3 years. Focus on delivering results, right? Just enough with the hype of talking about data, just start doing it. And measure and evangelize on your progress. It's important as well. Don't keep it quiet. Just measure it honestly and show it. Strive for quality. That's important, either in people, but also in data and in tech. That's going to take you to the next mile. For us, for example, a very clear example was around getting rid of in-house technical debt and moving towards open source. And then effectively in the end, at some point you need to make a choice, how important is data for you and how you want to reflect that in your company. And for us, it was around strategy and around the reorg and around more transparency towards people. We haven't solved everything. This is just a list of our challenges that we have ahead. We are on-prem. Should we use the cloud? Because it comes with an advantage, but maybe a disadvantage. Still something we're wondering. Fairness and ethics, right? Should I consider you fraudulent because of your zip code? Is that all right at all? Scalability. You've seen the scales we operate. That's not going to get better. Performances. So yeah, a few basis points over 500 billion is a lot of money. So any uplift is welcome. Experimentation and MLOps are things that, if you look at the open source tooling around it, you will see that's not yet that mature. So we're still trying to figure out which direction we should go. We do it, but we think we can do it in a better way. The same with reporting and with graphs. These are new dimensions for us. Yeah, that was my last slide. This is me. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Thank you. Yeah.
So when you were introducing new tools or processes, how did it happen? Did you have experienced people in key positions who were able to introduce that top down? Or would you let it come up, bottom up, and then try to standardize after that? Or how did
So the question is, when we introduce new processes and tools, was it coming top down with experienced people making the call, or it was bottom up, right? That's it. So at the beginning, it was bottom up, and it was a bit frustrating, right? Because also we were living on the over-promised land, right? So it was like, hey, we need this. I was like, yeah, whatever, right? But as we started to deliver value, you kind of see that they get you more seriously, and then at the end, it's more top-down, right? You have experienced people say, okay, should we do this and that? Having said that, this is not commanding. We try to have a structure that is very flat. So we also consult a lot with people, and we have people to have their say. But at the end of the day, someone needs to make a call around something.
Other questions?
The question is, are we able to keep our people? All right. I'm going to address the elephant in the room. The market is crazy, right? I think so. I think we're not doing a bad job at all. I think that people is really happy around what they learn, the impact they make, right? If you join Agent as a data scientist or a machine learning scientist, that's what you're going to do. You're going to put something in a payment flow affecting €500 billion. You're not going to end up with a PowerPoint in someone's desk. Work-life balance is pretty good. And the pay is good. It's just that I think every company is trying to struggle with how much you should pay these days, right? But no, we have certain churn, but I would consider that churn ventilation. It's just normal. People come and leave and go, right? So. Yeah, so the question is thinking about transparency when we have degraded performance, whether we actually call it or we try to pin it on someone else, right? Something like that. No, we're super open about it. So the good thing is that we don't have outages very often. That's what makes us a very strong choice for processing your payment. When it happens, we inform everyone and in a very transparent way. And if it's up to us, I think we're very, very quick reacting to it. We have duty rosters in main platform, but also in data. And if it's a major outage for a certain network or whatever, then chances are we are not the only ones affected. So, yeah, but we're very, very open about it.
Organization to this new data strategy and this new way of doing things. So what did they do, and are they happy about it?
I think they heard you, but I'm going to repeat it anyway. So what do people, salespeople or commercial or other departments think about this data strategy? No, I think they're very happy about it because for once they feel they have someone to really talk to and say, okay, this person is going to answer my questions around data. If there's a problem with, say, a merchant, a business that wants to do something, or there was a problem with it, then they know where to go. And there's a clear documented strategy around it. So there's no anymore, I need to make my imagination fly to try to sell something. It's just solid. Yep. Thank you. Oh, one. How do I share? Show. Yeah, so the question is, how do we show value to business? Yeah, measuring. Anything that is data-driven is measurable. So you put a dashboard behind it, and then you show it, and there's no beating around the bush. If it works, it works. So if the product is, for example, a metric that we can show is uplift in control with respect to control traffic, right? And that's straight revenue. Another thing we can show is, cases that we flagged that prevented a bit of a disaster for someone. Yeah.